My company was dying. I knew at the moment I looked at the numbers on my laptop. 3 investors had pulled out within 2 weeks. 2 major clients had canceled their contracts. The bank had rejected my latest loan request. And tomorrow, I might not have enough money to pay my employees. I leaned back in my chair and rubbed my tired eyes. "I'm sorry," Daniel said from across the desk. "We're almost out of options." "I know. We can sell some equipment. That won't be enough." He looked at me quietly. "Then what?" I stared through the office window. "I don't know. My company had been my dream for years. I had built it from almost nothing. Now it was disappearing. That was when my phone rang. "Hello." A woman's voice answered. "Are you free tonight?" I immediately recognized it. Sophia Sterling? Yes, the billionaire heiress. Her family owned one of the largest business empires in the country. "Why are you calling me?" "I want to meet you." "About business?" "Something like that." An hour later, I was sitting across from Sophia in an expensive private restaurant. She looked completely calm. I looked like a man who hadn't slept properly in a week. She placed a folder on the table. "I have a proposal." I opened it, then froze. "A marriage contract?" "Yes." I looked at her. "You want me to marry you?" "For 1 year." I laughed. "You're serious?" "Completely." I closed the folder. "No." Sophia didn't react. "You haven't heard the offer." "I don't need to. Your company is struggling." My expression changed. "How do you know?" "I know everything about the companies I invest in." "I don't need your charity." "It isn't charity." She pushed another document toward me. "This is financial support." I looked at the number. My heart stopped. It was enough to save my company, enough to pay my employees, enough to keep my dream alive. I looked back at her. "What do you want in return?" "Marry me." "And pretend to be your loving husband?" "Yes." "For 1 year?" "Yes." I closed the folder again. "Why?" Sophia's expression became colder. "My father wants me to marry Alexander Kane." I knew the name. Everyone did. Alexander was rich, powerful, and ruthless. "You hate him?" "I hate what he represents." "What does that mean?" "My father thinks he can control my future by controlling who I marry." She leaned forward. "I need someone he can't control." "And that's me?" "Yes." "Why?" She looked directly into my eyes. "Because you are the only man who doesn't look at me like I'm a billion-dollar prize." Her answer surprised me. I looked down at the contract. "What are the rules?" "No real romance." "Fine." "No intimacy." "Fine." "No emotional attachment." I smiled bitterly. "That shouldn't be difficult." Sophia nodded. "The marriage ends after 1 year." "And my company?" "I'll provide the funding immediately." I stared at her. "You really expect me to believe there won't be a catch?" "There is one." "What?" "You have to convince my father that you genuinely love me." I laughed. "That sounds like a problem." Sophia smiled faintly. "You're an actor now. I've never acted in my life." "You'll learn." I looked at the contract again. My company was dying. My employees were depending on me, and Sophia was offering me a way out. But marrying a billionaire heiress was the kind of decision that could destroy a man's life. I looked into her eyes. 1 year. 1 year. No real feelings. None. No control over my life. Agreed. And when the year ends, we're strangers again. Sophia extended her hand. Deal. I shook it. At that moment, I thought I was making a business decision. I thought I was saving my company. I thought Sophia Sterling was simply offering me a contract. I had no idea that one signature would completely change my life. Because I wasn't just agreeing to become a billionaire heiress's fake husband. I was agreeing to become the man who would eventually steal her heart and give her mine in return. The wedding ended 3 hours ago. Yet Sophia and I were already living like strangers. We entered the mansion through separate doors, surrounded by staff who watched us carefully. The place was enormous, beautiful, and completely silent. Sophia stopped near the staircase. "Your room is upstairs. Mine is across the hall." I nodded. "Good." She looked at me. "We need rules." I expected that. No unnecessary touching. No questions about our past. No entering each other's rooms without permission. "Anything else?" She hesitated. "No falling in love." I almost smiled. That shouldn't be difficult. Her expression softened for 1 second. Good. Then she walked away. The next morning I focused on my company. Sophia kept her promise. The money arrived quickly, allowing me to pay my employees and restart several projects that had been frozen. Daniel wasn't impressed. You're trusting a billionaire heiress with your entire future? She saved the company. Nothing is free. I know. He sighed. Just be careful. I will. Meanwhile, Sophia was fighting her own battle. Her father, Richard Sterling, called her constantly, demanding that she end our marriage and return to the life he had planned. But Sophia refused. In public, however, we had to look perfect. At family dinner, she sat beside me, smiling as if we were deeply in love. Richard watched me carefully. So, he said, tell me about your family. I answered honestly. My parents are ordinary people, meaning they have no business connections? No. He smiled coldly. And your company? I built it myself. With what? My savings, loans, and years of work. Richard leaned back. So my daughter married a man who had almost nothing. The table became silent. I prepared to answer, but Sophia spoke first. My husband doesn't need your approval. Richard looked at her. I was only asking questions. No, you were insulting him. She took my hand. He is my husband, father. You will respect him. For the first time, I saw Richard look genuinely surprised. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs and found the kitchen light on. Sophia was sitting alone at the counter, drinking water. You can't sleep either? She looked startled. No. Why? She gave a tired smile. Too many thoughts. I sat across from her. About your father? About everything. She looked around the enormous kitchen. Do you know what the strangest part of this mansion is? What? I can have hundreds of people around me and still feel completely alone. I didn't know what to say. She continued. Everyone wants something from me. I don't. I know. She looked at me for a long moment. That scares me. Why? Because I don't know what you want. I smiled. Right now? Sleep. She laughed quietly. It was the first genuine laugh I'd heard from her. We talked for nearly an hour. She told me about the pressure she had lived under since childhood. I told her about building my company and nearly losing everything. Eventually, her eyes grew heavy. You should sleep, I said. So should you. She rested her head against the sofa. A few minutes later, she fell asleep. I stayed beside her. When she woke, morning light filled the room. She looked at me, confused. Then she whispered, I don't remember the last time I felt safe. I didn't know how to answer. But for the first time, I realized something. Sophia Sterling wasn't simply a cold billionaire heiress. She was a lonely woman who had spent years pretending she didn't need anyone. And somehow, she had started trusting me. Maybe that was finally changing. Months passed, and somewhere between pretending and living, our fake marriage began to feel dangerously real. My company was finally recovering. The latest project had attracted new investors, and Emily Carter had joined my team to help manage the development. Your schedule is insane, Emily said one afternoon, placing a coffee beside my laptop. You need to sleep. I'll sleep when the company stops trying to destroy me. She laughed. Then you may never sleep. I smiled. Emily had become a good friend. She was easy to talk to, honest, and never treated me differently because of my marriage to Sophia. Unfortunately, Sophia noticed how comfortable we were. That evening, she called me 3 times. Where are you? She asked. At the office. Still? Yes. Who is there? I raised an eyebrow. Are you interrogating me? No. I'm asking. Emily is here. There was a long silence. Emily? Yes. I thought you said she was only helping temporarily. She is. Fine. The call ended. I stared at my phone and laughed. The next morning, Sophia suddenly appeared at my office. You didn't tell me you were coming, I said. I didn't need an invitation. She walked inside and glanced toward Emily's desk. Emily smiled politely. Hi, Sophia. Hello. Sophia sat beside me. Too close. I looked at her hand resting on my arm. You know, I whispered, you're acting jealous. Her eyes widened. I'm not jealous. You're sitting on my arm. I am not. You practically are. She immediately moved away. I came because we're married. Fake married. Her expression hardened. Don't remind me. That sentence stayed with me long after she left. At public events, her behavior became even stranger. She held my arm, stood closer than necessary, and sometimes looked at other women whenever they spoke to me. One night, I couldn't resist. Should I be worried about your jealousy? She glared at me. Say that word again, and I'll leave. I smiled. Jealous. She threw a cushion at me. But beneath the jokes, something had changed. I was falling for her, and I was terrified to admit it. Then Alexander returned. I found him waiting outside the office one evening. You look comfortable, he said. With my life. With Sophia. I said nothing. He stepped closer. You're temporary. Don't confuse her kindness with love. My jaw tightened. She chose this marriage. Her family chose her future, Alexander replied. Eventually, she'll remember who she really belongs with. I don't belong in your conversation. You will. He walked away, leaving doubt behind him. That night, Sophia was unusually quiet. We sat together in the living room, the city lights glowing through the windows. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. If the contract ended tomorrow, I looked at her. What would you do? I don't know. She lowered her eyes. Would you leave? The question hit harder than I expected. I thought you wanted this marriage to end. I did. Then why are you asking? She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. I don't know anymore. My heart began pounding. She slowly reached for my hand. If this marriage were real, her voice became barely a whisper. Would you stay? For the first time, I allowed myself to believe that Sophia might actually love me. That belief lasted less than a day. I was in my office when Richard Sterling walked in without knocking. You need to leave, Sophia. I looked up. Excuse me? The contract ends soon. When it does, you walk away. And if I don't, his expression became cold. Your company disappears. I stood slowly. You're threatening me? I'm giving you a warning. My company has nothing to do with Sophia. Everything connected to Sophia becomes my concern. I clench my fists. You can't control her forever. Richard smiled. You're wrong. I can control her because she loves you. Those words shocked me. Before I could respond, he continued, and she will sacrifice anything to keep you safe. He turned and walked away. I didn't understand what he meant until Sophia changed. That evening, she entered our room with a completely different expression. We need to talk. I stood. About last night? Yes. Her voice was cold. Our marriage was always business. I stared at her. What? You heard me. You told me you weren't sure anymore. I was confused. And now I'm not. I stepped closer. Then look me in the eyes and tell me you feel nothing. She finally looked at me. I feel nothing. The words crushed something inside me. You don't mean that. I do. Then why did you ask if I would stay? Because I wanted to know how serious you were. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to. I swallowed the pain. Was everything between us fake? She hesitated. Then she said the words that hurt most. Yes. I stepped back. Fine. Her eyes flickered with pain, but she quickly looked away. I wanted her to stop me. She didn't. The next morning, Daniel noticed something was wrong. You look terrible. I'll survive. What happened? Sophia ended it. Daniel stared at me. Are you sure? She said our relationship was business. He sighed. Then walk away. I looked at him. Just like that. Before you lose yourself completely. His words stayed with me. So I stopped chasing Sophia. I buried myself in work. Every day, I spent longer hours at the office. I stopped waiting for her calls. I stopped asking where she was. I stopped looking for signs that she still cared. And Sophia noticed. She watched me from across the mansion, but she said nothing. Claire noticed too. One afternoon, she confronted Sophia. You're hurting him. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. I know. Then tell him the truth. I can't. Why? Sophia lowered her voice. My father threatened his company. Claire froze. He what? He said he would destroy everything if I stayed with him. Then tell him. No. Sophia, you're sacrificing your happiness for his. I'd rather lose him than watch him lose everything. Claire shook her head. He deserves to know. Sophia wiped her tears. If he knows, he'll fight my father. And Richard will destroy him. Claire had no answer. Meanwhile, I made my decision. I couldn't keep living in a house where every room reminded me of someone who no longer wanted me. That night, I packed my belongings. One shirt, then another. My books, my laptop, everything I had brought into the mansion. When I closed my suitcase, I looked toward the door. Sophia stood there. She had been watching me. Neither of us spoke. I lifted the suitcase. Her lips trembled. For 1 second, I thought she would finally tell me the truth. Instead, she stepped aside. I walked toward the door, and Sophia let me go. I was 1 step away from leaving the mansion when Daniel called me. "Don't go yet." I stopped. "What happened?" "We found something." His voice was serious. I turned around. "Tell me." "Your financial crisis wasn't random." My heart tightened. "What do you mean?" "Someone sabotaged your investors." I immediately returned to the office. Daniel placed several documents in front of me. "Look at these transfers." I studied the records. Several payments had moved through companies connected to the Sterling family. "Richard?" "That was my first thought," Daniel said. "But look at the names." He pointed to one. "Victor Hayes." I frowned. "Richard's financial advisor?" "Yes." Daniel opened another file. "Victor has been moving money between several Sterling businesses. Some transfers were hidden through shell accounts." "So he sabotaged my investors?" "Indirectly, yes." I leaned back. "Why?" Daniel looked at me. "Control." That word stayed in my mind. Then we found something worse. Several payments connected Victor to Alexander. I stared at the screen. "Alexander." Daniel nodded. "He's working with Victor." Suddenly, everything made sense. Alexander wasn't simply trying to win Sophia back. He wanted the Sterling Empire. If Richard's businesses collapsed, Alexander could step in, control the remaining assets, and eventually gain influence over Sophia. My fake marriage suddenly felt much bigger than I had imagined. That evening, I went straight to Sophia. She was standing near the window when I entered. "Did you know?" She turned. "Know what?" "Victor Hayes." Her face changed. I placed the documents on the table. "Victor has been moving money from your family's businesses." She stared at the papers. "You found them." "You already knew." She said nothing. "And Alexander is working with him." Sophia closed her eyes. "I wanted to tell you, but you didn't. I was trying to protect you. By destroying me?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I never wanted to hurt you. You told me our marriage meant nothing." "I had to." "Why?" She looked away. "Because they were watching you." I stepped closer. "Who?" "Victor. Alexander. My father." I froze. "Richard? He threatened your company." The room became silent. "He told me that if I didn't push you away, he would destroy everything you built." My anger slowly disappeared. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd fight him." "Of course I would. And that's exactly what I was afraid of." She looked at me. "You would have risked everything for me." "I already did." Her tears finally fell. "I know." I walked toward her. "All those things you said, I didn't mean them. The way you looked at me, I was trying not to cry. The night you let me leave." She covered her mouth. "I wanted to run after you." My chest tightened. "Then why didn't you?" "Because I thought distance would keep you alive." I stared at her. For the first time, I understood the truth. She hadn't stopped loving me. She had been terrified of loving me. Sophia suddenly broke down. "I pushed you away because they promised me they would destroy you if I didn't." I couldn't speak. She covered her face as she cried. I stood there, realizing that the woman I thought had broken my heart had been breaking her own at the same time. But there was one question I couldn't ignore. "Who exactly are we fighting, Sophia?" She slowly lowered her hands, and the fear in her eyes told me the answer was worse than I imagined. I didn't sleep that night. Sophia and I had barely finished discussing Victor and Alexander when Daniel called. "Ethan, you need to get to the office." "Why?" "We found another account connected to Victor." I looked at Sophia. "We'll go together." She nodded. But before we could leave, her phone rang. She answered. "Hello." Her expression suddenly changed. "What?" I stepped closer. "What happened?" She ended the call. My driver says there's a problem with the car. Don't go. She shook her head. I need to know what's happening. I'll come with you. No. Stay here. I'll be back. Those were the last words she said before leaving. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was the hospital. Mr. Ethan? Yes. Your wife has been brought in after a serious car accident. My blood went cold. What? She survived, but I didn't hear the rest. I ran. By the time I reached the hospital, my hands were shaking. Where is Sophia? Emergency surgery. I stood outside the operating room, staring at the closed doors. Daniel arrived shortly afterward. Ethan, I should have gone with her. This isn't your fault. I should have gone. Hours passed before a doctor finally came out. She survived. I nearly collapsed. Can I see her? She'll be unconscious for a while. I entered the room. Sophia looked so fragile lying there. Machines surrounded her. Bandages covered one side of her head. I sat beside her bed and took her hand. For the first time, I stopped pretending. I didn't care about the contract. I didn't care about the mansion. I didn't care what Richard wanted. I only cared about her. I couldn't imagine my life without Sophia, and that terrified me. The next morning, her fingers moved. Her eyes slowly opened. Ethan, I'm here. She looked confused. Why? Why what? Why did you stay? I stared at her. Because I love you. Tears filled her eyes. You shouldn't. I know. I hurt you. I know. I told you our marriage meant nothing. I know. Then why are you here? I squeezed her hand. Because I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm confused. She began crying. But I still love you. She turned her face away. I don't understand. You don't have to. I thought you'd leave me. I gently touched her hand. Why? Everyone does eventually. The door opened. An older woman entered. Mrs. Bennett? She nodded. I heard she was awake. Sophia looked at her mother. Mom. Mrs. Bennett walked to the bed and touched her daughter's hair. You've been afraid of abandonment since you were a little girl. Sophia looked away. Mrs. Bennett continued. You watched your father control everything in our marriage. You watched me lose my voice. Sophia whispered. I remember. You learned that love meant eventually being trapped or abandoned. A tear rolled down Sophia's cheek. So when you found someone you truly loved, you pushed him away first. Sophia closed her eyes. I was trying to protect him. I know. Mrs. Bennett looked at me, and she has spent years believing she has to sacrifice herself to keep people safe. I nodded silently. After Mrs. Bennett left, the room became quiet. Sophia looked at me. You really love me? Yes. Even after everything? Yes. She stared at me for several seconds. Then she reached for my hand. I held it tightly. Her fingers wrapped around mine. That night, as the hospital lights dimmed, Sophia finally closed her eyes. But she didn't let go. Instead, she pulled my hand closer to her chest. Her voice was barely a whisper. Ethan. I leaned closer. I'm here. She opened her eyes. Please don't leave me. I felt my heart break all over again. This time, not from pain, from love. Sophia and I finally stopped pretending. There was no contract between us anymore. No rules. No fake smiles. Just two people who had finally admitted the truth. I love you, Sophia whispered. I smiled. I love you too. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Then Alexander destroyed it. The next morning, every major news channel carried the same story. Billionaire heiress tricked into marrying ambitious nobody. My picture appeared beside Sophia's. Alexander gave an interview. He married Sophia for money, he claimed. He saw an opportunity and used her emotions. My hands tightened into fists. Then Richard's representatives released financial records showing how much sterling money had been connected to my company. The truth was twisted until I looked like a gold digger. By evening, 3 clients canceled their contracts. The following morning, 2 more followed. Daniel threw a folder onto my desk. We're losing investors. I stared at the numbers. They want us to collapse. Emily nodded. And the media pressure is making everyone nervous. Sophia entered the office. I can fix this. I looked at her. How? My family can buy back the contracts. No. She froze. Ethan, no. I can protect your company. I don't want your family protecting me. Her expression softened. I'm trying to help. I know. I took her hand. But if we're going to be together, I need to stand beside you. She stared at me. Not behind your fortune. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't want you behind me. Then let me fight with you. She smiled. Okay. Daniel stepped forward. Then let's fight. Emily opened her laptop. I've already contacted our remaining clients. I'm going to convince them to wait before making any permanent decisions. Daniel nodded. And I'll handle the investors. Meanwhile, Claire had been working quietly. That evening, she called Sophia. I found something. What? Evidence against Alexander. Sophia's eyes widened. Are you sure? Yes. Payments between him and Victor. I looked at Sophia. That's enough to expose them. But Sophia shook her head. Not yet. Why? Because my father is still protecting Alexander. She stood. I need to confront him. I followed her. You don't have to do this alone. I know. We entered Richard's office together. He looked at me first, then Sophia. You're making a mistake. Sophia's voice was calm. No. I made a mistake when I let you decide my life. Richard stood. I gave you everything. You gave me everything except freedom. His expression hardened. You're choosing him over your family? Sophia looked at me, then back at her father. I'm choosing myself. Richard laughed bitterly. Do you understand what you're giving up? The fortune. Yes. I don't care. You'll lose your inheritance. I'll survive. You'll lose your position in the company. I'll survive. Richard stepped closer. And him. Sophia didn't hesitate. I choose Ethan. Silence filled the room. Richard's face became cold. If you choose Ethan, you are no longer my daughter. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. But she didn't look away. Then I'll finally learn how to live without being controlled by you. I reached for her hand. She took it. And for the first time, Sophia walked away from her father's empire without looking back. Sophia walked away from her father's office holding my hand. She didn't look back, but I could feel how badly she was shaking. You okay? I asked. No. I stopped. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm terrified. Of what? Having nothing. I squeezed her hand. You still have yourself. She gave me a weak smile. And you. Especially me. For the first time, she laughed without pretending. Meanwhile, Daniel and I moved quickly. Claire had given us everything she found about Victor. Bank transfers, hidden accounts, messages between Victor and Alexander. We organized everything and handed it to the investigators. Daniel looked at the files. This is enough. Then let's finish it. Victor tried to disappear that same night. He packed his belongings and headed toward a private airport. But the investigation had already closed every exit. His accounts were frozen. His companies were searched. And before he could board the plane, authorities stopped him. Alexander wasn't spared either. His secret partnership with Victor became public. The man who had spent months calling me temporary suddenly had to answer questions about financial fraud and corporate manipulation. Within days, the story changed completely. The headlines that once called me a gold digger now exposed the truth. Heiress's husband cleared as financial conspiracy uncovered. Another headline read, Victor Hayes accused of secretly moving sterling assets. My canceled clients began calling. We're sorry, one executive told me. We believed the reports. I smiled. It's okay. Daniel looked at me after the call. You're taking this surprisingly well. I don't care anymore. He raised an eyebrow. Really? I looked toward the window. Sophia is safe. That's enough. Across the city, Richard watched the news in silence. His empire was damaged. Victor was facing prosecution. Alexander's reputation was destroyed. And Sophia had walked away from him. But Richard finally understood something. His obsession with controlling his daughter had pushed her toward the one man he believed was beneath her. That evening, Sophia came to my apartment. She wasn't wearing designer clothes. No expensive jewelry. Just a simple dress. She looked nervous. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up. From what? This. She looked around. The small apartment. The simple furniture. My old life was so different. You don't miss it? She thought for a moment. I miss parts of it. That's okay. I don't know how to live without money controlling everything. You'll learn. She looked at me. And if I fail, I'll be there. What if I have nothing? I stepped closer. You'll still have yourself. She smiled. And you? You'll always have me. She wrapped her arms around me. For once, there were no cameras, no contracts, no family expectations. Just us. Later that night, Richard called me. Can we talk? I hesitated. Then I agreed. We met in his office. He looked older than before. Tired. I owe you an apology. I said nothing. Richard looked down. I hated you because I thought you would take my daughter from me. His voice broke slightly. I never realized I was the one driving her away. I finally looked at him. Then don't make the same mistake twice. He nodded. I won't. For the first time, I saw regret in his eyes. But I wasn't interested in his fortune. I wasn't interested in his approval. I had already chosen my future, and my future was standing beside me. Sophia. The final day of our one-year marriage contract arrived quietly. No cameras, no reporters, no family celebration. Just Sophia and me sitting across from each other in the living room. The contract lay between us. 1 year ago, that piece of paper had brought us together. Now it was the only thing that could officially separate us. Sophia stared at it. It's strange. What is? We're finally free. I smiled sadly. Technically. She looked at me. Do you want to leave? The question was simple. My answer wasn't. No. Her eyes softened. Me neither. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then Sophia smiled. When I first chose you, I didn't think I'd ever fall in love with you. I know. I chose you because you felt safe. I raised an eyebrow. Safe. You never treated me like a billionaire heiress. I didn't know what to do with a billionaire heiress. She laughed softly. That was exactly why. I smiled. Then my expression became serious. I wasn't innocent either. Sophia looked at me. I accepted your offer because I needed money. I know. I needed the money to save my company. She nodded. But somewhere along the way, you became more important than my company. Her eyes filled with tears. More important than success? Yes. She looked down. I hurt you. You did. I lied to you. Yes. I pushed you away when I loved you. Yes. She swallowed. Can you forgive me? I took a breath. Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. Her eyes lowered. I know, but I'm willing to rebuild trust. She looked up. Slowly. Slowly. Honestly. Honestly. She smiled. I can do that. I reached across the table and took her hand. One thing has to change. What? No more contracts. She laughed through her tears. Agreed. And no more pretending. Agreed. And no more running away when we're afraid. She squeezed my hand. I promise. The room became quiet again. Sophia looked at the contract. Then she asked the question that changed everything. If there were no contract, she paused. Would you marry me again? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Her eyes widened. You're sure? I've never been more sure about anything. She smiled. A real smile. Not the smile she used at business events. Not the smile she used to fool cameras. Just Sophia. The woman I had fallen in love with. She picked up the contract. For a moment, she stared at it. Then she slowly tore it in half. The sound seemed strangely loud. She tore it again, and again, until the document was nothing but pieces scattered across the table. I laughed. You really wanted to destroy that thing. It caused enough trouble. She stood and walked toward me. Then she held out her hand. No money, no family pressure, no contracts, no pretending. I took her hand. She smiled. Just us. Just us. She stepped closer. Then, with tears shining in her eyes, she whispered, Then marry me for real? I smiled. Yes, Sophia. And this time, there was nothing fake about my answer. Months later, Sophia and I returned to the small restaurant where everything had started. The same place, the same quiet corner. But this time, there were no lawyers, no family members, no contracts, no cameras, just Sophia and me. She looked around the restaurant and smiled. I can't believe this is where I asked you to marry me. You didn't exactly ask. She laughed. I offered you a business deal. A very strange business deal. You accepted. I needed the money. She smiled. And now? I took her hand. Now I need you. Her eyes became emotional. A small table had been prepared for us. There were 2 simple rings beside a candle. Sophia looked at them. They're not expensive. Good. She laughed softly. I never thought I'd hear you say that. I picked up one ring. Sophia, when I entered your life, I thought I was only saving my company. She listened quietly. I believed money was everything. Success was everything. I thought if I could build something great, I'd finally have everything I needed. I took her hand. Then you came into my life. Her eyes filled with tears. You taught me that success means nothing if there's nobody beside you to share it with. Sophia wiped away a tear. Then she picked up the other ring. My turn. I smiled. She took a breath. I spent most of my life building walls. I stayed silent. I believed love always came with a price. My family taught me that love meant control. Losing people taught me that everyone eventually leaves. She looked directly into my eyes. Then you came along. Her voice trembled. You never asked me to become someone else. I squeezed her hand. You made me feel safe. She smiled through her tears. And I finally understand something. What? I don't have to earn your love. My chest tightened. I don't have to be perfect. No. I don't have to be afraid every day that you'll leave. You never have to be afraid of that. She smiled. I know. We exchanged rings. There was no grand ceremony. No expensive wedding hall. No crowd applauding. But somehow it was the most important moment of my life. Sophia leaned closer. Do you regret meeting me? I laughed. Sometimes. She hit my shoulder. You're terrible. I pulled her closer. But I'd choose you again. She rested her head against my chest. I'd choose you too. When we finally stood to leave, Sophia stopped near the door. She looked back at the table where our fake marriage had begun. Then she looked at me. Her eyes filled with tears. Ethan? Yes. She reached for my hand. Please don't leave me. I smiled. I held her hand tightly. I won't. She looked at me. Promise. This time, I'm staying because I choose you. Her tears finally fell. But she was smiling. We walked out of the restaurant together, hand in hand. The woman who once believed love was a contract had finally learned that love was a choice. And the man who once believed success was everything had finally learned what truly mattered. I didn't defeat Richard. I didn't destroy Alexander. I didn't need revenge. I defeated the past by becoming someone who wasn't afraid to love. Sophia lost the future her father had planned for her. But she gained the future she had always wanted. And I gained something worth more than any company, fortune, or success. I gained a woman who chose me freely. Not because she needed me. Not because her family demanded it. Not because a contract forced her to stay. But because she loved me. And this time, there was nothing fake about our marriage. It was real. It was ours. And I was never leaving.